Okay then, so the final one of the series for week 2 sections on advanced spreadsheets, A342Com, is templates and formula. So we're going to open that folder from your lecture materials. And in here you can see that we have a workbook, worksheet and a workbook template. Knowing the difference between these is what the exam syllabus is getting at. It's not particularly you have to open up a workbook, do lots of things and save it as a template, or open up a template, make lots of changes in it and save it as a template again. It's understanding that if we open up a template, so this one here, workbook template, even though it's a template, it changes into a workbook. So if you're asked to open up a template, make a change, let's say we make a change of 50% to this template, and they want you to resave it, then you need to resave it. Instead of just hitting save up here in the exam, you need to make sure that when you do a save as and you browse, that you save it as a template still, because it's changed to a workbook. So we need to go back to being a template. And also be aware of where that change is at the top. So if they want you to save it to the Z drive, you need to make sure the Z drive is showing up here. And the Z drive will look a little bit like that, but with a Z before the colon. So make sure those two things, that you have resaved it as a template and you have saved it in the correct place. Other than that, there's really not much more to it. So I'm not going to hang about on that. You've got a template there, you've got a workbook, you can have a little play around with those to make sure that you get used to it. It's pretty straightforward. So demo mix cell references folder, let's open that up and let's have a look at this syllabus area. So in the syllabus you can have, if we look at this one here and I select the A3 in the formula bar, if I use the F4 function key to jump through the different areas, we have, this is an absolute, so both column and row are absolute, the A and the 3. If we click again, we have a mixed cell reference whereby the 3, the row, is only absoluted. Click again, we have the A, the column only absoluted, and the relative cell is where the A3, if it was auto-filled across, would become B3, C3, D3 automatically. Okay, so what we need to do in this is we need to look at, see what happens when we do the same to the B2, make it back to relative and tick the little tick. When we take that through on an autofill across and then a total autofill down the row, we've done the column and we've done the row. So going across, has worked on the first one. As far as the top's concerned, the very first one's worked, but after that, this moves relatively across to B3, C3, just as we said it would. And when we took it down, it didn't work either, because it came down here and it came down there. So it came down okay here, but it came down there. So what we need to do is we need to change it so that when we autofill across, it moves across there but stays on A3. And when we take it down the row, the B2, this moves down, but this stays the same. So let's have a look in practice, because sometimes trying to explain it is always difficult. So let's make it absolute, and that would work, would it? So let's tap it again and make it by column. That's by row because it's in front of the 3. So we need the $sign in front of the column. That works. If we then tick that and we take it across, that should work in theory. If we click on these, you can see it's worked. It stayed on A3, but it's moving across the column correctly. Okay? But then if we take that down, the B2 will still stay relative. So in a sense, that's not going to work, is it? As you can see, this has moved down. As I've moved down the row, this is moved down as well in the different answers. So back to the first one. So if we make this mixed cell referencing, let's go to the absolute first, then the mixed cell, and that's the correct one because it's in front of the number, which is the row. So then we'll autofill that, autofill down, and this time it should work. So the first one will always work, second one, third, yep, let's go down this time from this way. Yes, it's worked, it stayed on the B2, but it's moved down there. And if we use Control and the key above the tab, and tap that, you can see that that is definitely what they're asking for. So what we've done is we've used mixed cell references to autofill across and get the correct answer. And you can have a little play with this one yourself in how you change it. And then before we move on to an example from the diagnostic, I just want to cover the custom number formats. So when we have data numbers in a cell, it doesn't like to be mixed with characters, in other words, letters. And a hyphen would also be considered a letter or a character. So if we wanted to put the IV dash in front of this range, what we'd have to use is the number formats, and we'd have to customize it. So we'd right click, go to Format Cells. In the number area, click on the custom, and across the top there, you could type in the type of thing you want to use. So we can have an IV, capital IV, dash. Now, unfortunately, if we pop a 0 on the end to represent any whole number, we wouldn't click on that 0 because if we did, we'd lose the IV hyphen. We have to wrap the text or the character or the letters, whatever way you want to call it, in speech marks, because letters, text, characters do not sit in the same cell as data unless you wrap them. A good example would be if you've done an if and you have an outcome of if it's true, it's pass, and if it's false, it's fail. Those items, the text has to be speech marked so that it fits within the formula OK. So then if you're OK, you've highlighted the area, you can see that it automatically goes on. And you could do it again here, and you could use a different one. We could use a custom, and we could use an ID dash, speech mark it at any point, make sure it's the one above the 2, pop in a 0, OK, and there you go. So that's custom number format. I'm going to close this now, not save, and we're just going to have a quick look at this diagnostic mixed cell references example. So let's open it up. Give you a moment to have a look at it. Let's read it out together. So this is the overheads worksheets, question 40 in the diagnostic test. And it asks you to enter a formula in D23, so we know that's where we're going to put our answer. Using only mixed cell referencing, that will calculate increased salary costs by multiplying cell 23 by cell D21, and then add the original amount C23, and then copy the formula across appropriately. So let's start to do this. So we've got the C23 times the D21, and then plus the original C23 again. So that's fine, that would work. So now we've got to make sure that when we take it across column, it has mixed cell references that work with staying here but moving across these. So it's this area that needs to move across. So if we go to the C23, we need to use the function F4 key, and we're going to have it by column in front of the C. We're not taking it down the rows, so let's do the other one as well. We know we're going across the column, so we need that to be by column. Tick box. We autofill now, and we double click on them to check, escape in between. We can see that it stays on C23 and it's moving across the row there. Now, I would consider that to be correct. However, If it comes up incorrectly, there's a reason. The reason is the language saying using only mixed cell references. So even though the D21 is not being auto-filled down the rows, it wants everything to be mixed cell references. We know if it was going to be used, it'd be going down the row. So we're actually going to do that mixed cell references by row and click OK, take it across, and then hopefully we'll get the question correct. So that's just an example for how you need to think about using mixed cell referencing. And remember there's mixed, absolute, and relative. Okay, thank you. And that is the last of the week 2 sections. Thank you for joining me.